You walk out to the garden, and the cabbage you waited 3 months for has a crack running straight across the top. Yesterday, it was tight, heavy, perfect. Today, the center is split open, wet leaves are peeling back, and flies are already finding the wound. One hard rain can undo weeks of watering, weeding, hand-picking worms, and watching that head slowly tighten. And if that cabbage was supposed to become sauerkraut, soup, or winter food, you didn't just lose a vegetable. You lost time, money, and food you were counting on later. Most gardeners call that bad luck. It isn't. There's an old trick for mature cabbage that almost nobody teaches anymore, and when the timing is right, it can help keep a finished head from bursting open before you get it out of the ground. I'm Ron. Johanna and I have lived off-grid for more than 40 years, and I've learned that gardens usually give you a warning before they punish you. Most of what I know came from making mistakes first, then paying attention when older growers showed me a better way. Today, I'm going to show you the cabbage trick one of those old growers showed me, exactly when to use it, when to leave the plant alone, and the mistake that makes people think the trick doesn't work. First, you need to know what you're protecting. A mature cabbage head looks tough. It feels tough too. By harvest time, you can wrap both hands around it, and it can feel almost like a green bowling ball. But that head is really hundreds of leaves packed tightly around a short stem, layer after layer, pressing against the next. Think of a wooden barrel filled right to the rim. Pour slowly and carefully, and it holds. Dump in a bucket all at once, and something has to give. A mature cabbage can do something similar after a dry period followed by heavy rain. The roots pull up that sudden rush of water, the inner leaves expand, and the packed head can split. Johanna and I learned that lesson the expensive way. One summer years ago, we had a row of cabbages so clean, I was proud enough to bring neighbors out just to look at them. Big heads, blue-green leaves, hard as stones when you squeezed them. We were waiting because we wanted to make one large batch of kraut all at once. Then the sky went black. You know that smell just before a summer storm? Dust, hot leaves, and then that cold mineral smell when the first drops hit dry ground. By supper, the rain was hammering the roof. I remember sitting there pleased with myself. Free water, I thought. The next morning, I walked out with my coffee and saw cracks opening through the row. An older grower we knew took one look and said, "You waited too long without slowing the roots." I had no idea what he meant. He walked to one of the heads that had not split yet, put both hands low on the plant, and gave it one controlled quarter turn. Not a full spin, not enough to yank the plant out of the ground, just a quarter turn. That small twist disturbs part of the root system and reduces how quickly the plant can push water into a head that is already mature. There's another version using a spade. You push the blade straight down into the soil on one side of the plant and shear part of the root system. Same principle. You're not trying to kill the cabbage. You're putting a brake on water uptake after the head is already finished, so one big drink from a storm has less chance of turning a tight head into a split one. Now listen carefully, because this is where people ruin a perfectly good trick. You do not do this to young cabbage. You do not do this while the head is still loose. And you do not use this as an excuse to keep cabbage thirsty through the growing season. Cabbage needs steady moisture while the head is forming. If you let the soil go bone dry, soak it, let it dry again, then soak it again, you create exactly the kind of uneven growth that causes trouble. The trick is for a mature, firm head that is essentially ready to harvest, but for some reason needs to stand in the garden a little longer. Here's how I judge it. I kneel beside the plant and press the top and sides with my fingers. Early on, the head gives a little. There's looseness under the outer leaves. If I can feel that springiness, I leave it alone. A mature head feels dense, solid, heavy for its size. When you press it gently, it doesn't feel like there's much room left inside. That is the window. But sometimes you have 12 heads ready at once. Maybe you can't process them all that day, or maybe the forecast says a soaking rain is coming tonight. That's when the quarter-turn trick earns its keep. I clear enough leaves that I can see where the thick stem enters the soil. Then I hold the plant low. I do not grab the cabbage head and wrench it like I'm opening a stuck jar. Low on the plant. Gentle pressure. About a quarter turn. You'll often feel resistance and then a slight give underneath. Stop there. Walk away from it. Do not turn it again tomorrow. Do not keep testing how loose the roots are. One controlled turn. Then leave it alone and plan to harvest soon. If the ground is hard, the plant is enormous, or twisting feels like it might snap the stem, I use the spade method instead. Take a clean, sharp spade. Place it several inches from the stem on one side. Push straight down through part of the root zone. Pull it back out. One cut. Done. And if a head has already cracked, don't wait for this trick to fix it. It won't. Once the head splits, that opening exposes tender tissue. Insects can get in. Water can sit in the crack. Decay can start around the damaged leaves. That cabbage moves to the front of the harvest line. Cut it, trim it, inspect it, use the sound parts first. And later I'll tell you exactly where you can still find free land in this country, because learning how to save one cabbage is useful, but learning how to build a place that keeps feeding you is a much bigger conversation. Before that, there's another mistake I see all the time. People hear about root twisting and assume it can make a loose cabbage suddenly form a tight head. It can't. If your cabbage is still open and leafy, twisting the roots is not going to magically pack those leaves together. Root restriction is not medicine for every cabbage problem. Use the trick for what it actually does, slowing water movement into a head that is already mature and at risk of splitting before you can harvest it. Near harvest, your job changes. Now you're not trying to push the plant harder. You're trying to bring the crop home in good condition. That shift matters in almost everything we grow. But here's the thing about that shift. It's not just for cabbage. It's the same principle behind almost everything Johanna and I do out here. Knowing when to push, when to stop, and when to protect what you've already grown is the difference between producing food and actually keeping it. All right, let me stop right here for a second. Because what I just showed you, that's maybe 5% of everything Johanna and I figured out in 40 years on this land. We took every single project, well over 100 of them, and put it all in one place. Water that never runs dry. Power that costs you pennies. A greenhouse that feeds you 12 months a year, even buried in snow. We called it the self-sufficient backyard. Now I know what you might be thinking. Ron, I don't have the land for that. You don't need much. A little over 1,000 square feet, a person does the job. I don't have the money? Neither did we. We did this on almost nothing. I don't have the skills. Well, let me tell you something. I was a city kid, born and raised in Philadelphia. Never grew so much as a tomato before Johanna dragged me out here. If I could learn it, you can too. Today, and today only, they're letting it go for 70% off. That's $37 instead of $128. And you'll walk away with 3 things for free. A guide to finding free land right here in America, a book of old 1900s DIY survival projects, and a full course on growing fish and vegetables together in an aquaponic garden. And there's no risk on your end. 60 days. If it's not for you, send it back, no questions asked, full refund. Johanna and I put our name on that. The link's right there in the description. Now, back to keeping those cabbage heads from splitting before harvest. Because there's one more mistake that can undo almost everything I just showed you. Uneven watering. People become so focused on the quarter turn that they forget the reason the cabbage was under pressure in the first place. During heading, I want moisture to be steady. I'd rather soak the root zone properly and let the soil stay reasonably even than splash a little water over the surface every day. But don't water by habit alone. Touch the soil. Surface dust can lie to you. The top can look dry while the soil underneath is cool and moist. And a quick sprinkle can make the surface look dark while the roots below are still dry. Stick a finger down. Feel it. Johanna taught me that years ago when I was still trying to run the garden like a train schedule. Water Tuesday and Friday, I'd say. Feed every 14 days. Harvest on day 90. She'd just shake her head. Plants don't own calendars, Ron. She was right. By the time cabbage is close to maturity, I check those heads often. Every day, if the weather is changing fast, press the head gently. Look for a hairline crack near the crown. Feel whether it is still loose or already hard. Look at the sky. Look at the forecast. Then make one of 3 decisions. If the head is still loose, leave it alone. If the head is firm and you can harvest it, harvest it. If it is mature, you truly need a little more time, and wet weather is coming. That's when the quarter turn or partial root cut can make sense. 3 choices. Simple. Once the cabbage is near harvest, throwing more nitrogen at it just because you want one last burst of growth is not automatically helping. Late, lush growth can keep the plant pushing when what you really want is a stable, mature head. Early season is about building, late season is about finishing. That's an old gardening distinction modern people forget because everything we buy comes with instructions designed to make us use more of something, more fertilizer, more products, more treatments, more things in bottles. But the old growers I learned from were often doing the opposite near harvest. Less interference, closer observation, better timing. And that leads to something bigger than cabbage. And you have to wonder, why do the big food corporations, the seed companies, the folks who send you that electric bill every month, why don't they want you knowing any of this? There's a reason people are trying to keep books like this one off the shelves. It's not because it doesn't work. It's because it works too well. Look at how gardening is sold today. A bug appears and you're told to buy a spray. Leaves look weak, buy a bottle. Soil dries out, buy another system. Seeds get more expensive, fertilizer gets more expensive, groceries get more expensive, and slowly you start believing food only grows when somebody sells you the next input. But some of the most useful things Johanna and I ever learned cost nothing. Touch the soil, watch the weather, feel the head, know when the crop is finished, know when to stop pushing. That kind of knowledge makes you harder to sell to, because once you know how to read a plant, you don't need a product for every little problem. So here's my challenge for you this week. Go out to your cabbage patch and put your hands on every head. Don't just look, feel them. Find the loose ones, find the firm ones. If a mature head is ready, harvest it. If you truly need to hold a mature head a little longer and wet weather is coming, remember the quarter turn. Gentle, controlled. Once, walk away from it. Then bring that cabbage home before nature makes the decision for you. If you like learning these old methods people used before every answer came in a bottle or a bag, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It tells me there are still folks out there who believe practical knowledge is worth keeping alive. And tell me this in the comments. What ruins more cabbage in your garden? Splitting, cabbage worms, slugs, or heads that never tighten up? Just write one of those 4 below. I read every comment, and in the next video, I'm going to shout out a few of your answers before we get started. And speaking of that next video, I'm going to show you one harvest habit that can make vegetables lose quality before they ever reach the kitchen, and why old gardeners paid attention to the hour of the day before they picked. Until then, keep your knife sharp, keep your soil covered, and remember this. Sometimes growing more food is not about pushing the plant harder. Sometimes it's knowing exactly when to slow it down.